till we get to where we stopped at. The Bible says, and the Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I've given you, and the land shall keep a Sabbath to the Lord. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyards and gather its fruit. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest to the land, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyards. 5.
Your harvest after growth you shall not reap, and your grapes of untrimmed vines you shall not gather. The land shall have a Sabbath year. All of you shall have the Sabbath products of the land for food, your shelf, and your male and female slaves, and your hired man, and your foreign residents, those who live as aliens with you.
As well as for your livestock and the wild animals in your land, whatever the land produces may be eaten. Count out 7 Sabbaths of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbaths of years amount to a period of 49 years.
7 times 7?
Years.
49.
What?
Then shall cause the trumpet of Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the day of atonement. You shall make the trumpet to sound throughout all your land, and you shall consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land of the inhabitants. There shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to his possession, and each of you return to his family.
Verse 11. You shall have the 50th year as a jubilee. You shall not sow, nor reap its aftergrowth, nor gather in from its untrimmed vines. For it is a jubilee, it shall be holy to you. You shall eat its crops out of the field. On this year of jubilee, each of you shall return to his own property. If you make a sale, moreover, to your friend, or buy from your friend's hand, you shall not wrong one another. Corresponding to the number of years after the jubilee, you shall buy from your friend. He is to sell to you according to the number of years of crops. In proportion to the extent of the years, you shall increase its price, and in proportion to the fewness of the years, you shall diminish its price. For it is a number of crops he is selling to you.
Isn't that interesting? So he's saying what? When it's producing well, you do what?
Add years.
You can
Or add
you
price.
can increase, you can make more money.
Right.
But as it gets closer to the year of Jubilee, then you do what?
Diminish.
Then you to reduce. And that's something, okay? So you can make, if you want it, you can make good money during certain part of the year. Then after that, then as it gets closer to the Jubilee, then you have to start reducing it. I wonder why you have to start reducing it. What is the year of Jubilee?
It's where everyone takes
Rest.
a year off.
Rest. So it's rest. So then he's saying, if this is the case, then he says, what you have to do is, it is going to diminish. Now, when it starts, not diminish, but as it starts to decrease. He says, when it starts to decrease, then it's getting closer and closer to what? To its real owner. To its real owner to buy it, so that its real owner can buy it back. And remember, well, it's in here, that there is no usury that you can use on it. But anyway, it's in here. But anyway, 17 says, therefore you shall not oppress one another, for you shall fear your God, for I am the Lord your God. 18, so you shall observe my statutes and keep my judgment, and perform them, and you will dwell in the land in safety. 19, then the land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your field and dwell there in safety. And 20, and if you say, what shall we eat in the 7th year, since you shall not sow nor gather in our produce. Then I will command my blessings on you in the 6th year, and you will bring forth produce enough for 3 years. 22.
When you are sowing the 8th year, you shall still eat old things from the crop, eating the old until the 9th year when the crop comes in. The land, moreover, shall not be sold permanently, for the land is mine, for you are but aliens and sojourners with me. 24.
Throughout the country that you hold as possession, you must provide for the redemption of the land. If one of your countrymen becomes poor and sells some of his property, his nearest relative is to come and redeem what his countryman was sold. If, however, a man has no one to redeem it for him, but he himself prospers and acquires sufficient means to redeem it, he is to determine the value of the years since he sold it and refund the balance to the man to whom he sold it. He can then go back to his own property.
So then if he sold it when? Stop and think about it, 27. So if he sold it, remember how many years before he's redeemed? 7. So what if he sold it then, so that you understand? Do you understand what he's saying? Watch me know I said it. Do you understand what he meant by this? All he's saying is, say I sold the land my 4th year. Say I sold it my 4th year. Then what you're going to do, you ever had a battery and you went to go and the battery went bad and then you took the battery back? They don't give you the full price of the value. They give you, I forgot how to.
Depreciate.
Yeah, whatever the depreciation is of it. So then it's the same way that he's speaking of when this person is the land you've sold. So if I sold in 4 years, then really all you got is what? 3 years. So you can't get me for what? 7 years. You can only get me for 3 years. So if I was to come back and to purchase, when I come back to come get my land, I don't pay for 7 years. I only pay for 3 years. You got it, Jason? That's all I pay for. So I want to make sure y'all know that. So you see, that a lot of times you don't understand because they think, well, shoot, 7 years. Well, then I've got to go back into slavery. You hear me? Then I've got to go back into slavery for 7 years because I didn't have the money. When that's not true, all I have to do is go back for 3 years.
And if they're resting on the 7th year, then they're not making as much money.
Right. So it even
reduces cheaper.
So it even reduces even more. So really, what I'm paying for is, I'll say 2 and some odd years is all I'm paying for. Yeah. So I need to, and I'm poor, so I don't know how to give you back. I mean, I can't. And with me being poor, and when I sold it, I still don't have enough to work with. So what I want to do then is give you. You're gonna have to get Jamie a book, Lord. So what I have to do is get you all. This ain't even mine. Hey Jim, can you go into the auditorium? Oh, your eyes might be good enough, huh? You think my eyes might be good enough, but mine is small. It's small. Yeah, it's small.
What you need, Pastor?
So we're gonna another Bible.
Huh?
We're gonna go get one more Bible.
The print is very small on that one.
Do you want these?
No, he's gonna get one. So guys, so now this makes sense, right? It's registered. If we're 2 years away from the Jubilee, then all you get me for is 2 years. And here come wobble. Okay, then all you get is 2 years from it. He had to put it where she,
What? What did they do? Oh.
Something you do, something.
25 what?
25, 20, 29.
27, right? So where we're at? 25, 27?
I left, so I don't know.
Yeah, 25, 27. So all I was showing them, Jamie, in 25, 27 was when somebody was sold or sold their property, and say I sold my property within the Jubilee. The Jubilee is what, 7 years. So if I sold my property 4 years before, or 2 years before the Jubilee, it doesn't mean I go back to 7. It just means for 2 years, you have me for a slave for 2 years.
Right.
And then that means then I can still go back and get my property. So after 2 years, because I've worked my 2 years off at your place, as a slave. So that you see it. That's all that meant. That didn't mean, hey, that they go. Because remember that God made that clear as a bell. He said, the land shall not, in 23, the land shall not be sold permanently. So then he made it clear as a bell that it's not a permanent. You don't own somebody's land. It's just basically lease. And so then they can come back after the 7 years and gather their land. But I'm still poor and I want my land. Well, how do I get my land? Well, when did you sell it? Well, I sold it the 5th year. Then you work for me really 1.5 years if we're gonna deal with it. You really work about once, because the year of the Jubilee is the 7th year. So really about 1 year is what you would work to get back to redeem yourself for that, to get your land back. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So then 28 says, who's reading?
But if he's not able to have it restored to himself, then what was sold shall remain in the hand of him who bought it until the year of Jubilee. And in the Jubilee it shall be released, and he shall return to his possession. If a man sell a house in a walled city, and he may redeem it within the whole year after it is sold, within a full year he may redeem it.
We already talked about that. Remember we talked about this in the wall? It's what? We call it almost like what? What did I use the word term last week? Beachfront.
Property.
It's in the wall. Remember I said it's like beachfront because it's in the wall. But if it's outside the wall, then keep going. But if it's outside the wall, whose term is the read?
But if it is not bought back for him within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city passes permanently to its purchaser throughout its generations. It does not revert in the Jubilee.
So then, guys, watch this. What is he saying? It's some pretty valuable land. So I want to just work it off, right?
Right.
What did you text us say?
It says it passes permanently to the purchaser.
So then I can't work that off, huh?
Nope.
That one's gone. So I lost that land. I lost that land behind my foolishness. Because stop and think about it. It's a land that was a pretty good land. How in the world did you lose it in the first place when we all started the same, pretty much the same anyway?
Right.
So how did you lose it? You had to do something to lose it. Now, if I gave it away, like I said, my 5th year again, then I've got a year to hurry up and get this back, to hurry up and get this money so I can get it back and get my land back. If not, then when that year of Jubilee comes, then it's gone. So then watch this. Now let's go on.
The houses of the villages, however, which have no surrounding wall, shall
Where
be
you at?
31. The houses of the villages, however, which have no surrounding wall, shall be considered as open fields They have redemption rights and revert in the Jubilee. That's where we left off.
Go ahead.
As for cities of the Levites have a permanent right of redemption for the houses of the cities which are their possessions.
So they have a right. Who has a right?
The Levites.
The Levite, then read it again so you get it.
As for
Because what did we say about the Levites? What is taking place so far with the Levites? Could the Levites own anything?
no,
Okay. So how in the world could a Levite be out without get rid of his property if he's a Levite? Listen to the statement I made and then think about it. So how could a Levite get rid of, if he was to lose his property, how does a Levite get his property back?
What?
You need to catch it, it's a tricky question.
I know, that's what I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right.
That one don't smell right, so think about it. I'm gonna wait, think about it, I just said it again.
Well, he doesn't have property.
Hello, he doesn't possess anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't own anything. Something to think about. I just asked you earlier, and even Ethel said, yeah, he doesn't own anything. So since he doesn't own anything, then stop and think about it. You can't take that from him, because he doesn't own anything anyway. Okay.
But I'm sitting up here, but he can't own anything.
Right. And she doesn't.
You don't know.
There
You
it is
just
done.
say it.
Right. So that's why he doesn't own anything anyway. So can you take anything from him? No.
Nope.
So that which is purchased or that which he has is his. And that God gave that to him. God looks out for that Levite. I say that, guys, because when you stop and think about it, what that says is how God takes care of his ministers. That's what God was doing. He's taking care of his ministers. Remember I told you, those Levites are priests. So they weren't, their work was to do what? What was their work?
Take care of the flock.
To take care of what?
Of the people, the
To
flock.
take care of what?
Israelites, God's people.
To take care of what? Who? I can't hear you.
God's will.
Oh, no, to take care of God's will. To take care of what though? What were they instructed to take care of?
Sacrifices and
So why were they, huh?
The sanctuary?
Who?
The sanctuary.
Yes, the temple. That's their work, the temple. So they don't have, there's not to be any stress put upon them because they do their work in the temple. God wanted them to have absolutely no reasons for not doing their work. God wanted to make sure that they had, so now when it came down to getting a place to stay, he made sure that they had a place to stay. So they didn't have to worry about work because God would make sure that that is taken care of. So you had to see that. So now watch this. Then he says what? Then at 33 he says what?
And if a man purchase a house from the Levites, then the house that was sold in the city of his possession shall be released in the Jubilee. For the houses in the city of the Levites are their possessions among the children of Israel.
So if a man did what?
The man purchased it
Purchase. If he took a house from a what?
from the Levites.
From a Levite. If he took it from a Levite, then what? Then that house what? He just got to do what? He's got to go back to him. Do he have to pay to get it back?
No.
Yeah.
And that's something, but he can give the house to you, but giving it to you, but you've got to do what? You got to give it back to him. So why? Because the house isn't yours, the house isn't his, the house belongs to God. So it goes back to him anyway. So that Levite would say, yeah, I'll give you can go ahead, you want to purchase the house from me, you can. So now, remember in purchasing the house, all I'm doing is doing what? I'm doing what? If I'm purchasing the house from him, then really what am I doing?
Yeah.
What do you say? That's it. So really all I'm doing is renting. He said, you want to rent the house, so go ahead, pay me to rent the house. But at the end of the Jubilee, when Jubilee comes, it goes back to you. So the rent, then we start all over again if you want to rent it again.
Right.
Okay, so just like rent, is what we're saying. It's just like rent. That renter, anytime he wants his property, he says, you gotta go, right?
Yeah.
Anytime that owner wants his property, you've seen people be in a place and then the owner finally says, I'm selling the property. And you say, okay, he's selling the property. So he says, well, you can stay and talk to the new landlord and see what will happen. If the new landlord doesn't want you, then you gotta go.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So this is here. But there will never be a new landlord. There will always be who? That Levite. So that Levite will, then if I want to turn around and rent it to you again, I can. But remember what happens for 1 year. I'm sorry? Yeah, so what happens to the property that I sold you? I gave you the property so you rented it. And so what happens for 1 year now? Because it's a year jubilee. So what happens? It comes back to me. So if it comes back to me, then what is it? Is it? It's not, it's what I'm saying. Unless I want to turn around and rent it to you again. Other than that, it's empty. Other than that, the property stays there. So I've gotten some property that I didn't necessarily need. So I turn around and said, if you want to rent it, you can. I go stay with another Levite, if that be the case. You know what I'm saying? I can do whatever I want to do if that be the case. So stop and think about it. Remember, you have to think on terms of this. We don't want to think on terms of this, and I think the youngest young lady in here is Jamie. But we don't want to think on terms of death. But all of a sudden you lose a loved one, right? You lose a loved one, and a lot of times what you do when you lose a loved one, you usually say, okay, you want to come in and stay with me? You can't. You don't normally family say, hey, why don't you come live with me? Right? Normally that's what family says. Why don't you come live with me? So think about it. So now then, what happens to the place? Then the place becomes what? Vacant. She wants that big chair, Jason, behind you. Oh, you know? I thought you wanted the chair. You don't want to? Oh, okay. So then, see what's going on, guys? The Levite has to have nothing to worry about. That Levite has to be really scot-free. That Levite has something that I think it was you, Carl Archer, that said something about the people. He has to take care of the people. Was it one of you all said? So think about it. His responsibility is to make sure that the temple, remember the fire's got to be burning all the time. So his responsibility is that. And then when there were things that needed to be done with the people, guess who would have to handle that? The Levite. Now doesn't that sound like something that's going on today? If you really start to think about it. That minister should not be doing outside work. Your minister shouldn't be doing outside work. This is it. This is where he should be. So that when that call, if that call comes through, there's nothing that will stifle or hinder that minister. That minister says, okay, I gotta go, or I'm coming. So then, why? Because he doesn't have, so watch this. What that says to that is, hear me now, that means that when that minister, or that Levite has property, that property doesn't have a price on it. It was given to him. Think about it. But I remember when I came here, that I was given a place to stay, or was told that I had a place to stay when it becomes available. Lenny stays in that place right now, but that place was supposed to be a property for me to go in with me and my wife and children, and the church would then take care of me when it comes down to rent. I would be rent free. so that there would be no problems of me paying rent. And any other bills I made, then would be bills that I made. But as far as the church is concerned, you made provisions for me to have a place to lay my head. All would need for me would be then to do what? To make sure that my family is fed. Well, then you also gave me a salary. You also give me a salary so that my salary would be then to make sure that my family is fed, to meet the wants, or meet the needs and the wants. But a lot of times, and this is really a lot in black churches, we really hold back on that. For some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason or another, that's a hold back. Well, why should we be giving them this and why should we be doing that? Here's a good example. You've seen your ministers driving Cadillacs. You've seen this, right? And we say, well, not my minister. He ain't driving no Cadillac, and I gotta drive a Pinto. I'll say that. And I gotta drive a Pinto. Did you know that's really right? Did you know that really is right? We struggle with that, but that really is right. He's taken care of, yes.
Paul mentioned something like that where he showed where he had the right to receive everything that the church gave him.
That's right.
But because of the situation of the church, he had a heart to say, I don't want to be a burden.
Right.
Amen.
That's the issue. But Paul says, but I really don't want to be a burden to the church. I want to say, caring minister says, I really don't want to be the burden to the church. So let me do what needs to be done. But here's what happens too with the church when you do things like that. Then the church relaxes. Mm-hmm. And so when she relaxes, even when when she starts to do better, she don't feel she needs to pick up on that area. When she needs to come in and say, now, as we have gotten better or we have grown more, now we need to make sure that minister is taken care of. Now, watch this. Not only is that minister taken care of, because we always see the preacher, but is it the preacher only that delivers the word of God? Is it the preacher only that delivers the word of God? So then there's another group in there called what? Teachers. See, a lot of times we miss that. And there's your teachers that are also in there. Oh, sure, he ain't asking you to fork out to meet that from that angle. But watch this, but they could or should be compensated. We'd rather compensate the song leader. You hear me, Lenny? Yeah. We'll make sure the song leader is taken care of. But she know what I'm talking about. But we'd rather take care of the song leader. But what about the teachers? Oh, they teach. But you'd rather have the song leader paid, not the teachers. What's wrong with that picture? He ain't doing but singing songs. Watch this. He ain't got to go in and fix them up and study them and tell us what the words mean or nothing, right? He just, from a song book, pull it up, sings out that song, and if he sings it redundantly, you now know the words to it too. But a teacher studies just as hard as the preacher. Okay, but God has called that preacher to deliver his word. Someone said, but they pretty much the same. No, God doesn't put them the same. God identifies that preacher. And he says, with that preacher, he even calls him his man, God's man. So then he then identifies him and says, there is a great and great responsibility. You are really accountable for this flock. Yeah. And watch this. How accountable are you to the point that you are to set the elders and the deacons in the church? Wait a minute. But the elders and deacons should be, no, you're there. So what are you doing? You said look out from amongst you. They're looking out from, meaning the flock is looking out amongst you. The flock says, wow, we think Brother Jim, we think Brother Jason would be great to be elders or deacon. Now that would be that shepherd, because that minister is that shepherd until there are shepherds. So that minister now needs to make sure that that which the flock has said they would like to have, now the investigation comes from the minister. That minister needs to make sure that this person that you're talking about bringing in as a shepherd is not really a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's really not somebody that, watch this, the only time he picks up the Bible is when he's in class. And you can hear it because all you got to do is listen to him as he talks. That minister is the one that also, when things are smooth, when things are running well, you always get the beauty out of it, out of any individual. Amen? But when things are running bad, and there's things that just not going right in that person's life, that's the time that minister needs to not going to do it. How you doing? I just want to see what's going on. Yeah, what you want? But you see what I'm saying? That's the time now where you need to investigate, because, and then that minister, also when it comes down to elders and deacons, did you know that minister, it is his responsibility now? I need to go into your neighborhood. You say, what? I need to go in your neighborhood. Somebody said, what? No, I don't think you need to do all that. Yes, I do too. I need to go in your neighborhood, and I need to ask maybe your neighbors, hey, do you know Jason? Yeah. So what do you think of Jason? Oh, he's all right. I don't want to hear he's all right. What I want to hear is, oh no, he's a very nice person. I think he's, yeah, I mean, the guy do practically anything for you. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear, well, he's all right, okay. Because, watch this, because what am I going to gain, or how much information am I going to get from a neighbor who I am a stranger? How much information am I going to get out of that person? You see what I'm saying? Not much. They're not going to give me much anyway. So then, for me to start to probe, then they say, well, who are you? And I say, well, I'm the minister, and he attends, so what? So you do. You don't have a right to be asking me any questions concerning him. Why don't you go ask him? When they come up, why don't you just go ask him? Well, you don't want to get into that level, but why don't you just go ask him? Then I've accomplished zero. Now I can't find out what's going on with this man in his own neighborhood. Because his neighborhood would be able to tell me, oh yeah, man, he's a beautiful brother. He's always trying to reach out and help somebody. That's what you want to hear. Not, who warned? Man, that lousy, that joke ain't worth a quarter. You don't want to hear that kind of talk. Because why? Here's the neighbor that may be worldly and has already said something concerning you. Well, why would I want to bring that into the church? Why would I want that person to, because what's happening is, I just found out how that person acts when I'm not around, or when someone isn't around. So now I need to find out what's going on. What do you know about it? Is he a gossiper? What do you know about it? You know, why is this so important? Because you need to know what's going on. You know, hey, and so what? Oh, woo! That Joe was always trying to get $1. That's a no-no. I mean, that's a no-no. What do you mean? He's always trying to get $1. He's always trying to get $1, man. He's always working for somebody. He's always trying to get $1. That's greed. See what I'm saying? Now we got greed. But you see, all these little things would kick in, and then I need to no longer see the person from, well, you know, we're friends, and you know, he's always around me, and we're bosom buddies. Not when the search takes place. All of a sudden, that hat has to come off. We friends. That comes off, because then I wouldn't be judging fair for that individual. So I need to judge fair. I need to make solid, sound decisions. It ain't built around an emotion. I like him. He's a beautiful brother. It's not built around that. That is removed. We have to focus in on that. So I said all that so that you'll understand. Here's the role of a Levite that's taking care of the people. So when he assigns people to take care of people, he has better make sure that he's done what's right. he's better make sure he's done according to God. Because after all, his agenda for work is not like your physical work where you're out in the fields making sure that the produce grow. You're out taking care of the animals, making sure that they're healthy, making sure that they're okay. That's not the role of that Levite or that minister. Yes.
So the Levite would totally depend on God.
Totally. You got it. You got it, Jason. He totally, if you've heard this statement, because I had to say it last Sunday, why don't you learn how to trust God? Did you hear me? So what does that mean? That means I will one day trust God. I'm going to hopefully trust God one day. Did you hear what I'm saying? That means I trust God. I don't give you something that I don't believe in. You see what I'm saying? I must believe that I trust God. And then when I send the message, trust God, there should be that example because Pastor truly trusts God. He trusts God. So watch this. So that would mean when things are working beautiful in my life, someone said that's because he trusts the Lord. But when things aren't working exactly like I want them to work in my life, doesn't mean I don't trust the Lord. I still must trust the Lord. I still must lean on the Lord to take care of me. See what I'm saying? Even since I have walked away from my work or my labor, circular labor, basically the church has taken care of me, has provided for me, has made things where I'm decent. I ain't where I want to be, but I'm, you know what I'm saying? But I'm decent. Renee don't miss a meal. I don't miss a meal. We ain't never been short on the mortgage. If you hear where I'm coming from? So those things, so that much I can say. So Westchester is trying to do what she needs to do, but she still hasn't gotten there, but she's still doing what she needs to do. And that, to me, that would just be based upon the volume of people. The more people you get into the church, then it will make better provisions for the minister. But watch this. Here's another element. We focus in on black churches. And what we do is, so now we make sure the preacher's taken care of. What about the benevolence? What about the missions? A missionary work. You hear me? These are things that need to be taken into consideration. Well, someone would say certainly Westchester need to have a missionary. God is not going to ask her when she can't do things. He's asking her when she can do things to look out. By the way, we do have a missionary. You all don't know it, but we really do. And it's in what part of Mexico, Lenny? Gallup, Mexico. So in case you all didn't know it, there is a missionary work.
Is it Gallup, Mexico?
Yeah, Gallup. Yeah, so the church really does have a missionary work, because y'all didn't know it. It does have a missionary work that it's doing. And do we have a benevolence? Well, benevolence has now been put in the hands of Jamal, right? I think it's Jamal, right, Jason? Isn't it Jamal? Yeah, Jamal. And so since it's been put in the hands of Jamal, Jamal would then regulate that. So Jamal now would have to make decisions. And certainly he has a little staff that would work with him. By the way, those that were a part of that benevolence committee, I will bring it to Jamal's attention. Doesn't remove the uncles, the Lennys, the cooks, myself out of that benevolence work. But watch this. But it can remove you out of it if Jamal decides on what I like to have though is maybe just me and you, and I really wouldn't want to have anybody else. It can be reduced to that. Like I said, that would mean, the ideal of that is I've passed authority on Jamal to say, you make some decisions. Now you make some decisions. His decision would even be to his staff. What do I do with my staff? How do I work with Jason is the youth. Jason is with the youth committee. Jason is also with the, what's it? Evangelist. He's with the evangelist. And so I said, and I will get with him little by little, because we've got now Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Is that cool, Jason? Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you still not working? Yeah. And then when we can sit down, probably tomorrow, and start wrestling out your stuff on what we need to do, because it's time for us to get on track. And then I'll pass everything we talk about, then I'll give it to Lenny, and Lenny can type it up, and then we'll put it in a folder where it will be in a folder. So it's just there to remind not only me, but not only you, but to remind anyone that you asked to be with you on that evangelistic work. See, and that's what I said. So all of that, and that would, I know Dwayne, so I know that would be a part of his work. And then I said I have my works as well, just like Jamal has his works as well. Jason has his works as well. Jim has his works as well. Renee has her work as well. So you got to think about it. I'm serious, because that is true. Because she handles the women, so that is true. But anyway, guys, I wanted you to see that. That's concerning the Levites. So now you know. You have any hand up? So now you know what's going on with these Levites. Yes.
I would say like the Tues were the priests then and we're the priests now.
That's exactly.
Just like they had a ministry, even now we all have a ministry.
That's right. That's right. And that includes everybody. But there has to be a head on every program. There has to be a head in every program. I told you that word control has to be in the minds of those that are handling. But you do not lord over it, but you do control whatever works you have been given. Because I'm not going to go to the people as to what's going on. I will go to those that are in charge of such a ministry and ask them why is the ministry not moving? What's going on? And I haven't said nothing to any of them, because they're trying to get it on track. They're trying to get it on track. And here lately, that yard has stifled or stopped a whole lot of stuff. It really has. And we're down for those, this is free. We're down to where all we have to do now is the front of that yard. And that's it. Because I fixed all the sprinkler heads today, and I filled all the chips. I filled all the wood chips. I actually filled them in. So that's done. So now we're working on, it's just the tree. And then I got to talk and find out, can we take that tree down? Because Ernest said the tree is dead from within. He says it may look alive outside, but Ernest said that tree is dead. So we have to find out how we're going to do that. But anyway, guys, that's the work of a Levite, right? So then let's go down to 34. That's you. 35.
For the field of the suburbs of their cities will not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee.
So guys, now what is he doing? He's talking about what? Property, right? And now he mentions something else in this property. He mentions a brother. See it in 35? If one of your brothers become poor and fall into poverty amongst you, then you shall do what?
Relieve.
Then you should relieve him. Relieve him, right? Relieve would mean what? Help him. You need to assist him. So you need to assist him. Isn't it amazing how we're supposed to work together for one another? And when we stop acting acting as individuals, when a brother or sister needs help, that's what we're supposed to do. I think Jamie says tomorrow, right? You need my help, right, Jamie? And so then it's time for me to wake up and go help him. You might need to roll with me on this one. I said, and then then we'll to get over and help to do whatever is needed. But you see what I'm saying? This is how the church is supposed to work. We're supposed to work together. When someone needs something, then we're supposed to say, is there any kind of way I can help? Let me help. And not let me help. Hear me? And not let me help. I'll help if you will. Say, right, just say, there you go. And you see what I'm saying? So watch this. That has become a problem too, because that's what you get. They want to help you, but they want to help you, and you know, you need to rub my palms, and then I'll help you. When that shouldn't be. It should be, I need help. Well then, brother, let me help you in any way I can help you. I says, because I said, I can't say it enough. When a church unites itself, I said, when a church unites itself, when one hurts, the other hurts. That's what I mean by unite. Then we'll be all right. And I've said this, when someone's hurting and we don't know, then you're acting like a stranger to the church. You're treating, you're then doing this. You're alienating yourself. You're making that hard. You have said you have not accepted your brothers or sisters as brothers and sisters. You need help. Your brothers and sisters then say, sure, no problem, we'll help. But if you got problems and won't tell nobody,
Well, they're supposed to help.
then they can't help. Right? Then they can't help because they don't know. And then whatever happens, happens to you. There's no need in that brother or sister really feeling bad for you, because you want to play keep away, so play keep away. But when your brothers and sisters are reaching out to help you, you need to make it known. Yes.
I was going to say in first century church, when the Bible talked
Come on.
about taking care of one another,
Come on.
you think maybe it wasn't that difficult for them to do because they've always been taking care of each other?
Isn't that something? But you're there. But isn't that something? But watch this. But in the first century church, that wasn't the case. In the first century church, and that's Acts the 2nd chapter. Acts the 2nd chapter. Acts the 2nd chapter. Acts the 2nd chapter. No. And it's around 43.
Yeah.
Brother looking at the Old Testament for Acts. Lord, we're in trouble. 42 says, and they stay steadfast in the apostle doctrine, right? 43 says what?
Everyone was filled with awe.
And everyone was filled with what?
Awe.
Watch this. Why was everyone filled with awe? And what is awe? What'd you say?
Shocked or amazed.
You got shocked or amazed. I can use those. I can use those words. So they were shocked or amazed. Why were they shocked or amazed?
They what was being done.
Watch it. You there. Because watch this. Read, Jamal. Because it says what?
And many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles.
And that's why they were shocked. Because the sick was being healed. Hear me? Whatever was being done that was needed was being done. But remember, he says, and they stay steadfast in the apostle doctrine. So don't remove that. So watch this. They stayed because they believed then that the apostles had power that they received from Christ. So that's why they got it. Now watch this, keep going. And it says what?
All the believers were together and had everything in common.
And so all the believers were together and they had all things in common. So watch this. Then what would they have in common? So there were never no arguments, never no debates, never no fussing, never no fighting, because they had all things in common. Huh?
That's not what it says.
That's right. So what are they? What is then that's common? What did they have that was in common?
Purpose.
What'd you say?
Purpose.
So what was that purpose? You there? So what was that purpose?
To take care of the needs.
You got it. Because they saw what? The apostles. They watched how the apostles did what? Meet their needs. Because they met their needs. Watch this. Who met their needs? You got it. That's who met their needs. Remember, there's a many days that they were with Jesus and was hungry but weren't hungry anymore. Remember, there was a many days when Peter really needed to get away because, I don't want the wife getting upset. He says, don't worry. There's a million days, guys, you know what, guys, I really need to get out here and hurry up and get this fishing done because, you know what, I got to make sure that, my clothes is getting old. They're not old anymore. Something about it. Jesus performed many miracles that we're not aware of. That he performed many miracles for them. I need money. No, you don't. Jesus, see what I'm saying? All these needs. So that's what they had in common. But to put it into the Old Testament, no, I can't put it into the Old Testament. Because here's the work of God that's working. Because these people become very rebellious. These people, as a matter of fact, that we're talking about, eventually Babylon takes over. Takes away from them. So that's so it can't be them. But anyway, guys, look at what's going on. So you've got what was in common. So now watch this. Let's get back over to where we were at 35. He says, I can't stand these glasses. If one of your brethren became poor and falls into poverty among you, then you shall help him, like a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Not do you just help him, but how do you help him?
You sustain him.
What did you say?
You sustain him.
To sustain.
Sustain him.
To sustain him. Go ahead.
What was interesting about that statement was that it said like a stranger. So apparently they had a custom to take care of the strangers like they were important guests.
Isn't that something? And watch it. No, you can't do that today because you don't know who coming in your house. No, because you might got a crook that come in your house. You might have a rapist that come in your house. You might have, watch this, he says like a stranger. I told you these are the things that we have allowed to get away from us because we have all our reasons as to why we can't have this person come into our life when he says, no, take care of it. Now, do I recognize somebody that's poor versus somebody that's trying to use me? You see what I'm saying? There's a difference. Wait a minute. You women, you can provide for yourself, but you don't want it. I got it. So what are you doing? Before you bring your luggage in, bring your luggage out. Don't even bring it in my house. Because you're not trying to help yourself. That's the issue here. We're talking about somebody that's poor. Someone that really can't help themselves and they need help. Then you reach out and then you help that person. Watch this. If that person is poor as they claim they're poor, watch this. The understanding of poor is that they emptied themselves. They bottomed out. When a person is bottomed out, then they will, whatever you give them, amen. I'm very grateful for it. But when you got somebody still arrogant, they have not bottomed out. They still got a little, I can do this myself. Then do it yourself. Don't knock on my doors. I think it was the other day, Renee, then somebody was, today you said somebody came by, the guy was coming by and you said he got a cigarette in his mouth or something.
Asking for money.
Yeah, asking for money. You like she said, where do you get cigarette from? You said, okay. But this is what I'm saying. These are the things, just think about it. So what's going on? You haven't bottomed out. When you bottom out, you can't even get a cigarette. When you bottom out. Okay? So the poor, and I say that because you need to understand, a lot of times you see people on the highways or byways, and they got their hands out. Believe me, I look at them and when I see some Nikes on, okay? When I see they look cleaner than me. Okay? Those are signs, guys.
You can't judge that. Maybe they're supposed to give it to them.
Might have been then. But those are things that I use. Why are you so well dressed? And yet you got your hand out. Yes.
Yeah, I saw that one time. Well, I was driving somewhere around here, saw a guy on crutches and he had a sign. And I saw that same guy about 4 or 5 hours later, put the guts down, walk with him. Doop, doop, doop. I was like, man, you kidding me?
Like you said,
Turn the corner, yeah, just walking as regular as possible.
you see, this is what I'm talking about. That's why you have to be careful. God gives us wisdom. Recognize, take advantage. When your heart says something is not right, listen to it. It's telling you, it's something, it's saying something not right. Then it is. That's something that we learned in the banking business. When you feel like something ain't right, like that person that just walked in, something ain't right, push the button. We won't get mad. Push the button. Why? Because 99.9, you're right. You're really right. Something told you, that person, then press it. Press it, because something ain't right. And I'm sorry that when I was in the banking world, you couldn't come in with your hat down. You couldn't come in with shades on. Not in my bank. You couldn't come in with shades on. You couldn't come in with your hat in. With a hat on. I'm sorry, not just a hat, but with it on. We would cut them off at the door and say, you need to remove your hat. I don't need to do that. Don't let them in. Don't let them in.
Your eyes are the most ridiculous.
When they get mad, don't let them in. So what do? Now we call regional. I've got so-and-so. Did you get any description? Yes, I have a description of the person. I did take pictures of the person. I do have it. Could be just as innocent as they want to be. Just one of them days. But because of your behavior, and watch this, and then we expect a call. Oh, I called regional, and regional said, can you explain to them? We did. We explained to you when this incident happened. So then what do? Well, he's back now. Let him in, close his account, and get him out of here. Huh? Close it. When he comes in, close it. Huh? Wait a minute. But I like to have it, sir. The bank's made a decision. We no longer want your business. So get him a check. He can get mad all he wants. Get him a check. Let him go. You hear me? You don't put up with no mess. And it's federal. So you cause any problem, it's federal. Because then we call the police. They at a bank in 2 seconds. At a bank, they're there in 2 seconds, okay? With guns out and the whole bit, okay? And they don't open, and they don't come with sirens. And they're behind the walls of the building. So when you finally walk out, then you hear shoot, 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 and all this stuff going down, and what the heck is going on? Get down now. You said, what the heck? The only way they get clearance is when we know that we've already called, we know it turns out the person is pretty decent. We go, then we take our card, business card, we go out of the building. We know they're there. We'll go towards the back. They will say, okay, is everything okay? We say yes. Well, we need to see who you are. Here's my business card. Here's my ID. Okay, so you work there. Okay, so everything is okay. Okay. Then they signal it up, people, then watch this, then they come in. They still don't stop, then they come into the bank and say, okay, we just want to look around for a minute or two. Because they don't know it could be a hostage. Yes.
I saw episode once. They did a survey, an interview rather, with a panhandler in New York. He has a special area that he works. He makes over $200 a day.
See, that don't make sense. See that?
He doesn't work, and not just in Los Angeles, all over.
I told you about the gentleman that I had that came into the bank. I had a $60,000 account.
There you go.
Okay? You say, I don't understand it. That's why I said, wisdom has to kick in there somewhere. If you're studying God's word, it will kick in. You realize this person is no good. I have a tendency of saying, if you're hungry, hold on, I'll be right back. I'll go get you something. And I'll bring it right back to you. Come back, they ain't there. Hear me? Because they didn't want no sandwich.
Nope.
Okay? But anyway, look, watch this, guys, because we got with 5. Watch this. He says, in 36, says what? 36.
Do not take usurer's interest from him, but revere your God, that your countrymen may live with you. You shall not give him your silver at interest, nor your food for gain. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan.
What is
to
God
be
doing?
your God.
What is God doing? Reminding them of what? Reminding them of how poor you were at one time. Reminding them that you were a slave one time. So now watch this. If you're going to lend something, then what if I give you $5, then what should I expect back? $5. That's it. I shouldn't expect no more back. $5. That's it. Food. If I gave you food and you want to bring back food, I shouldn't expect no more than what you took. If you were to give me more, then watch this. I am to say no, thank you. No, I can't take. If that's something you're adamant about getting, that's a different ball. But in this case, absolutely no use. You don't get no gain, no profit behind it. And then God reminds them where they came from. Watch this. The next verse says.
Okay, and if one of your brothers who loves by you becomes poor and sells himself to you, you shall not compel him to serve as a slave.
This is where I am, guys. This is where we will stop at. 39. He's changing it again. So you'll see it. So, Jim, we stop at 39. 39, he is changing it. He is going back to people. He is now talking about those that are slaves. And so he's going to now give us an understanding of how, if you were sold into slavery. Remember I told you, if you were sold into slavery, I had the property. And it turned out when I just can't keep it no more. I held on it for 4 years. I held on it for 4 years. And I just can't keep it. So Jason, can you bail me out? Can you buy my property? Jason says, sure, bro, I'll buy your property. I'll go ahead and buy your property. I say, watch this. It's year of Jubilee. So I say, wow, hallelujah. I'm free. Jason, give me back my property. Jason says, yeah, after you give me how many years of do I need to give back to him? How many years? Remember, 4 years I had it. Now I've got to give him. I come to Jason the 7th year. So how many years do I need to pay Jason for? 2 years. Not 7 more years. You don't make me a slave for 7 more years to pay back. You only make me pay back for 2 more years. Why is that so important? Do you all remember there was someone that had a wife or that was so in love with somebody? Do y'all remember? There was someone that was so in love with this young lady. And he had to work. How many years he had to work for? How many? No, how many? 7, right? And then
7 more.
And then he was Then he was tricked, right? And he was to work what? 7 more years. Remember that?
Yep.
And so watch this. Did now the gentleman that sold or that allowed him to purchase his wife, was it trickery? If you haven't read the story, read it. Because if you read it, you'll find out what happened to him. You'll find out what happened to Laban. You'll find out what happened to Laban, in case you always searching for the name. That's who it is. But you'll find out what happened to him too. Because it was trickery. And in the end, something's going to happen to him behind what he's done to Jacob. What he's done to Jacob. Okay? So then you find out what's going on. He was wrong. By the way, I thought that law didn't come into play until now. I thought that law didn't come into play until now. We just not reading it. Yes.
But they changed the name to indentured servants.
To indenture servant.
Well, you work for them to pay off whatever it is.
Yeah, but that debt would have been whatever.
I mean, from here it says your slave service, but then they prettied it up
by calling it something else in later years.
You got it,
It's
guys?
the same thing.
And that's something. So that's why I wanted to bring that to your attention. There were laws that were always, that we think just went into effect here as we read. But there were, these laws, all God is doing is what? Reminding them. That's all he's doing. He's reminding them of laws that were already already out there. That's what he's doing. And he's telling them, one more time, let me state these laws. Now keep them. Now keep these laws. Are there any questions, guys? Like I said, because I don't even want to go into 39. Because I want you to see from the rest of this, from 39 to 47, I want you to see how this, or 46, how this really unfolds itself. How, wow. Now he done went from property. First he went to people. Then he goes to property, and now he's back at people. First he went into people, and in going into people, he was talking about the idea of what? Rest. And then animals, and then rest. Now he's going to go into to people again to talk about the poor people and how you can handle them. And then wait till you see 26. 26, he's going to give the big law. That law is when you don't do what he had told you to do, how he had laid all these laws out and you didn't do. Wait till you see the repercussions on those. Those are going to be awesome. Are there any questions, guys?